For this video, we'll cover some of the updates occurred on the layout and some other things on rosters and some purchases we've been making. So what I've done here, managed to get done, I did actually install the cork road bed through this last section here. This is actually one of the last sections, pieces of cork to go in. So this will help prep the space for eventually. I do want to punch that storage track through, and as I mentioned in the last video, through this backdrop. So I want to get some of this prep work done ahead of time, so we know where this track lands, so I can get the crossing, and this has to be through in the hidden trackage in the right place. And then I have got around to modifying the icing dock here on both ends here. Kind of added the stairs back here and cut the end short here on the back to allow us to fit better against the backdrop. I cut down this old crane here to create this kind of conveyor section. It'll go between the ice plant and the ice dock. Still not quite level enough, so I think I'm going to do is add a little bit of concrete foundation to this building, to the ice plant. That'll raise up a bit, and then we'll have this structure here. The overhead will be level. And then one of the other things we've been doing is that I've been starting on creating a backdrop flat here. In this location, this represents some of the industries that were surrounding Brooklyn Yard that may or may not be served by spurs and like that. This will obviously not be served by the railroad, but it'll be probably a bit thicker, maybe at half an inch thick, which I think is probably enough to maybe add some as a flat to add some lights and things like that. So this will help fill out the backdrop and give a better industrial view of this area. One of the things I have done, since I haven't been able to work too much in the garage, is doing some paperwork and prepping around rosters. One of the things important here, I have my rosters here from my original 1955 plans, and I have another document here that we did for our Seattle area 1972 roster. One thing is to note about having a list of your equipment. One, for the very first thing, it keeps you to track of what you have, so you don't have to accidentally go to a show and realize you bought something you already had and write down to the same number. This allows me here to, one, serves as a basis for future operations, for creating of cars and waybills. And then second, actually third, I should say, it allows that I can keep track of, again, not only the railroads I have, write down with the links and numbers and types, so I can make sure, one, I have enough of the good variety of cars, and also enough variety of cars within for these specific railroads, as example, and different car types, and also have things like years and things like that. Again, make sure I don't have something too old or too new. Also I have, for some of these things, I do have prices, so Advantages works also as an insurance document as well, so if a loss were to occur, or for even a future selling at a train show. So what I was been doing with this is I was figuring out, because I have this 1955 roster and the 1972 roster, and also want to be creating a roster from a 1965 alternative era. You've seen the expand the possibilities video. We're talking about having potentially different time periods and locations on your layout. I needed to be able to see what I have for 1965, and I realized I was about out of room for freight cars, so I wanted to make sure. I wanted to cobble together a 65. And I did find that by moving cars around and looking at the layout and like that, and how many car types I actually needed of certain things, I managed to move a number of cars from my 55 and the 72 roster into the 65 roster that would work fine. And then we also identified about a dozen cars in the 55 roster, mostly box cars I have too many of, that I will get rid of. Also from this process, I realized that I might have some holes in my 1965 roster. I'm missing a lot of the common early 60s 50-foot Pacific Food Express refrigerator cars. These were cars made by Atlas and Microtrain, so they definitely exist. I only have a couple. I need more. And then I also need some of the 40-foot gondolas with the extended sides for wood chip cars. Again, I have some of the earlier ones I kit bashed for the 50s, and have later ones for the 70s. I just need some of those ones from the 60s. Don't need many, I just need some. So in future here, I'll probably will end up doing is taking these two documents and putting them together, because the overall desire I think I want to have is that for each of those three periods, 55, 65, and 72, I want to have a complete set of freight cars. That way, if I'm doing 55 and want to go change to 65, I'll pull all the 55s off and put the 65s on. So they're all separate, and we can keep things straight. And generally, I'll be able to do that with locomotives, so there's a lot of crossover there. But passenger trains, for instance, I'll be able to do that, keep that also separate. As an example, say around 1955, we'll be running the Cascade, which has been also on two-tone gray, those cars from Lowell Smith, the Railsmith. So we have that whole train, and then we have our mixed freight or mixed passenger train, the Rogue River. That train ran with a GP9, a lot of Harriman 60-foot Harrimans, and in overnight type merchandise box cars. So it's a neat thing to model. So those two trains would be for my 55. For 1965, those were gone. So the Cascade was still around, but I don't want to model that one because that one creates a whole sets of new cars I don't have. And so I decided, well, I could actually model the 1965 version of the Shasta Daylight in its waning years. There is a perfect Pike-sized passenger train because that train only had a baggage car, a couple coaches, a three-quarter dome, and a diner of food service car of some sort. I have the food service car, I have the dome, coaches are on order. I just need to find a baggage car and I got that train. And then for the 1972, that's Seattle. So I already have a whole rainbow era of Burlington Northern, Great Northern, Northern Pacific passenger cars and Amtrak cars to be able to do any train that went out of King Street Station southbound. Now, what I have been doing is doing some purchasing here last few months here. Again, a lot of it's trying to fill out the roster as much as possible. So I know for my 1965, I actually need some Southern Pacific bloody nose paint scheme locomotives. So here's I have plenty of Black Widow F units. I need some here for 1965. So I need at least one pair of these. So these will work fine for assortment of uses. An example. Also picked up one of these Broadway Limited NW2s. Again, this is for the same mid 60s scheme. Now here it is Burlington E8. I've seen plenty of pictures that coming out of Seattle with a single A unit like this pulling a rainbow of cars for those Seattle Portland pool trains. Again, small trains for that Pike size operation. So something like this is necessary for at that particular period. Another find that I finally had come across here was an Atlas SD9 in Black Widow. These things there's a long story that goes along with these. These engines, Atlas first released these SD9s in Black Widow in the late 80s. Of course, I was in school, couldn't afford them then. 1995 rolls around, Lifelike released SD7s of Black Widow. I bought a pair of them, so I still have them. And then 2017 or so, Atlas wanted to release these engines, or so, and I ordered them in about took me 1 second to order them. Unfortunately, never came. Atlas, apparently there was some issue with the frames, then mold got broken or something. They only released a little amount of them. I never got them. Eventually, my credit card expired, and the hobby shop went out of business where I ordered them from. Then I found here a couple months ago. I actually saw this in the store. Came back. They were still there. Bought one of these end of December. Of course, these are the new versions here that are silver, the sound readies. And I also this last month here I did pick up a decoder from ESU. This is a bunch of these. I ordered this from N-Scale Supply, and they actually, if you give them the sound file, they can program the decoder for you. So I don't need the lock programmer that you normally would need if you're doing this by hand. Other things with is picking up, again, going back into pictures. I've seen a lot of yard pictures with these, Santa Fe covered hoppers in the later '60s that are in the Seattle yard. So I picked up a number of these cars to fill this roster out. I got a pre-order came in for bring these Burlington Northern 50-foot RBL cars into them to help fit the roster. One of the holes I identified I needed, and I picked this up here. Found this at the in the stores here with these propane cars for the later period for the 70s. Have a number of propane cars from the 50s and 60s. And then, of course, picked up here's an example here of a Microtrains Evergreen. This actually was a Southern Pacific subsidiary. So, and these were common all through Oregon in the late 60s and early 70s. Then lastly, got this Georgia Pacific Evans product car. Again, all the lumber mills and plywood mills around. Cars like this are extremely common in the Pacific Northwest. And lastly, I realize I was looking through my stuff and realized I'd never gotten the last frog juicer that I need. So these are used for powering frogs on especially if you're using isolated metal frogs in your layout. I had 3 already. You can have up to 4 on one power supply. And I realized I never bought the 4th one. I was keep thinking I had the 4th one, but after checking it, it was actually the signal boards I have and not the hex juicer. So I bought this at the same time I bought the optic decoder. So this will allow me now to finish the stuff I need to start putting in all of the switches in the yard and in other places.